Okay, well, as an instructor at a community college here in Delta in Stockton, we've seen a lot of student interest in MySpace. I constantly have students coming up to me asking me as a teacher if I have a MySpace account. So it's really interesting to me how popular it's become so fast. Like 3 years ago, nobody was even talking about it. Now everybody's talking about it. So it's fascinating, but there's good and bad in it. I think on the good side, it's nice to see this sort of community unfold. As somebody who's been in the music industry, it's particularly fascinating to see the role of music in MySpace. And a lot of struggling musicians are finding a very significant audience through MySpace. And it's nice because they don't have to be signed to a major label. They have an audience and can build a fan base, even tour based solely on the fan base that they build up through the community of MySpace. So that's a wonderful thing about it. And then of course outside the music industry, it's just a great way for people to socially interact and network, and it's quite fascinating. What will be interesting to see is if there's another site that kind of takes over for MySpace, or if it's going to just remain popular the way that it is right now, but undoubtedly it's very influential. Now on the negative side, there's a lot of media attention being paid to some of the concerns, mostly privacy concerns about MySpace. And it's interesting to see how the media plays this. On the one hand, it's understandable that there is a concern for minors, in particular anyone who's under 18, admittedly is not being, if they're not being watched over by their parents, they can pretty much post whatever they want on MySpace. And anybody who's been on MySpace has probably encountered that, where you see minors that probably share a little too much information. And so that's its own sort of dilemma or problem. The media has been very quick to pick up on that and criticize it. I would hope that there's common sense that prevails in terms of privacy regulations that help to minimize that sort of situation without preventing the freedom of young people to express themselves, I guess, in an appropriate way. On the other side of that, it is genuinely something that does need to have filters in place. They should probably have something that is appropriate to make sure that people realize what it means to put private information out there, not even just young people, but anybody. Once you put information out there on MySpace or anything, it can be archived and it might haunt you and trail you for the rest of your lives. For example, students who might think it's fun to put pictures up on MySpace on their Friday night drunken escapades might think that's fun now, but 5 years from now, when they're going to apply for jobs, somebody might Google them, and if that stuff has been archived, even if they've taken it off, that's going to come back to haunt them. And people evolve. So 5 years from now versus when you're young, your values and priorities are going to be different. I look back and thank goodness that the internet wasn't as big as it is now when I was younger, because the Lord knows what I would put up there, but it's not there. Thank goodness. Okay, so that's what I feel about the good and bad of MySpace. Now, there's been a lot of concern in schools because of the popularity of MySpace about the access rights to this site. For example, at Delta College in Stockton, really almost without warning, students came to school and using the computer labs to log on to their MySpace accounts and found that they got a blank screen. It was blocked, basically. And the decision was not mine. I mean, I'm just a teacher here, but it's interesting that, that administrators decided to deal with the popularity of MySpace and I guess some of the problems associated with it simply by banning it. There's a lot of feelings about that, mixed. I guess the value of blocking it would probably be that teachers who work with computer labs, such as myself, have probably seen production go down because students, rather than doing their projects, in my case multimedia projects, would be spending time on MySpace. So admittedly, I have an opinion that's kind of like not completely negative, about that being shut down, because I've seen productivity go up since it's been shut down. However, I flinch a little bit. Anytime you start to ban something, it rubs me personally the wrong way. And I know students in particular did not appreciate that being done, and there's been a lot of grumblings and complaints about it. So I can see both sides to that issue. In the computer labs, I think the argument was that there were lines outside the door where people used to do their computer work there. They were now simply casually surfing the web. So, you have to remember it's an educational institution. Presumably people have access to the internet elsewhere. And so that's the justification in banning it. And it's controversial. A lot of, particularly high schools and middle schools are banning it entirely as well. I think it's particularly unusual that they did it at a college level, but so be it. That's what they've done. So that's a little bit about the MySpace situation.